Did you ever, Guyanese, feel so angry about something, like very, very angry, and when you look back, there's nothing you can do about it? Because the atrocities are committed by the people in power. And you know. But then you're in the system. And if you do something about it, they're going to hurt you. How many of you people in Guyana are in that position, went through that position, witnessed that position, both in PPP and PNC years? Listen to your own consciences and tell me. Then tell me who you're going to vote for. I am saying that Azruddin's crime is all in the mind of Bara Jagdeo. It is not anything that he did. It is what he didn't do. That was his crime. I'm going to tell you a story that relates. And I want you whilst I'm telling you this story, and don't worry, it's about 9 o'clock. I am going to finish this in less than 15 minutes. I had a friend. As a matter of fact, there were only 2 major contractors in Berbice when I was growing up as a young man. 2 major contractors. Now we have 200, I guess. But money was scarce. And one of those contractors worked for 5274 NDC. And our records are there to show. As a matter of fact, I want all of you in Region 6 that was there to remember when I fought against corruption in Berbice, your Bara Jagdeo administration tried to fire me. Because I identified corruption in 2 places. One is a PPP forum in number 64 village at Tagore Memorial High School. I don't remember the date, but the chairman, the person chairing that proceeding, was Moses Nagamutu. Of course, he was a minister in those days, in the 90s. The people that were there, some of them are still alive. Many of them died. I was a young man. Some of them that are alive there was a chairman, the vice chairman of Region 6, the chairman of Region 6, the REO of Region 6, the engineers of Region 6, many of the top party officials in Region 6. And a lot of them were my friends. They were all the administrators. There was my chairman, who was Nizam Rajab. All these people were there. I remember some of the people that are still alive, too. I don't think the people that are still alive want me to talk about them. But, you know what? So when I explained about corruption in Region 6, and I'm getting back to Azruddin's crime, I'm telling you how this works. When I explained about corruption in Region 6, and I had a detailed document showing how the region officials were stealing $5 million on an $8.5 million contract. Can you believe that? They were stealing more than like 150% of the money. So they had this contract and they were stealing more than how much? They had a $8 million contract and I proved that they were stealing more than 5 million. You know what the PPP government under Bar Jagdeo did? Jagdeo was a minister of finance in those days. They sent somebody, and mind you, not only the region officials were stealing, all the other areas of government were stealing. It was a norm. It was inherited by the PNC government to inflate the quantities in the documents. Inflate means, for the people who don't understand, inflate means if the thing's supposed to be $3 million, you make them $8 million. So the rest, you go thief them. You go tell a contractor, then you hear the project is $8 million. And you hear your ministers and your president saying, and we bill for $4 billion or $400 billion. They're stealing your fucking money, stupid. I'm telling you. I know. And you know why Azruddin is where he is? Because he also knows. But he not ready for talk yet. Because if he talk, he don't have no proof. And if he have proof, somebody will kill him. That is how dangerous your government is. I know you don't believe me. There are people who believe and there are people who don't. And a lot of the people who know would shut their mouth because they're in bed with the stealing. Anyways, I'm a little bit different. I'm the black sheep. And that's okay. I can work with that. So, then after that, I went to the regional office. It's 7 minutes only. 15 minutes, I promise you. I went to the regional office and a big boardroom meeting, and everybody in the region was there. All the police, all the big guys. Gaiwa, Gaisuko, GPL, and Bharat came himself. The same Bharat Jagdev that is screaming today. He came himself and tell us that money was scarce. And when money was scarce in the region, we can't do so much and we can't do so much. And when I explained that the region was stealing, you know what Bharat Jagdev did? He sent his goons after me. I was just a little boy. I was scared shit. I thought they'd come after my little family and destroy me. They didn't get that far. You know what they did? They sent Kadin Bakas. He's still alive. I hope he's seeing this. To investigate the office that I was working in. He spent 1 week and came out with not a single word. And I worked for 5 years and nobody could have told me anything. You know why? Because I wasn't stealing and they couldn't prove shit. I gave him for 1 week access to 14 staff members and all the records. I had nothing to be afraid of. I wasn't going to steal people's money. And that was that. The next story is going to make you cry. There was a contractor. He had a $800 and something million project, Guyana dollars. It was one of the biggest projects in Guyana in those days. It was a loan to the local government ministry. But of course, and that is where your state planning secretariat comes in. They're the guys that manages the paperwork that brings in the loans. And they have to be paid. They have to be paid. You don't get contracts without those guys being paid ever. So you guys that are voting, get sense. No. And this man, this contractor, with his $800 million, became a beggar and committed suicide. I can't call his name. He has family. But who knows, knows. And let me tell you how it works. So he won this bid, this contract, fair and square according to him. But there were people in state planning secretariat, and you know what he told me? He said, Joe, them people is not getting none shame at all. He said, I be grow up knowing enough for thief. You know them minister this, them not minister, them is a big boy in state planning secretariat. And this guy, I can't call his name, but he died. I know he died. He said a man sent his wife with a big bag for collect money. Anyways, can't call his name. Anyways, let me tell you what happened, what transpired. And these are things you don't get to hear them in Guyana. But this is where your president and his president, and you remember when Barjaglia win the elections, he bring in 4 people, Ashley Singh and if I get the rest name, and Glenlal know all the name properly, you talk about them. Kaishore News has talked about them steady. But those were the guys who run in national something, have to do with all the expenditures and the planning and the major budgetings. And they have access to all the state facilities and assets. Those guys. A set of criminals. And when Hoyt had like 20-something people overseeing the oil money coming, not Hoyt, sorry, Granger, Barajagde went and changed that to 4 people. The 4 criminals that you have there up to now. He changed it to 4 people from 20-something people across Guyana. Barjagde went to Parliament. I think it was a Christmas Eve or a New Year's Eve or something like that. And he had his majority and he changed it to 4 people. And he was one of the people also. That is how stealing happens in Guyana. 20-something people across Guyana, not politicians. Granger had all kinds of people from various parts of Guyana. People who would oversee the integrity of the oil funding. There's so much to say. I'm going to keep on point. I always stray from point. And this man, so they gave him the first money, and he refused to pay these guys from State Planning Secretariat because he said he wanted fair and square. So out of his 800 and something million, I think they wanted like 100 million or something like that. And he said, Joe, I'm not paying that shit. I'm not giving them no money. When I give them that money, and this was a decent man, a man with integrity, but contractors cannot have integrity in Guyana because your barjag there reduces them to garbage. And he said, I can't pay that money. If I pay them that money, then I'll have to diminish the scope of works. Then the Guyanese people can never get what they're supposed to get. You know what they did? Every segment of money so when you do a certain amount of works, you're supposed to get more money. Because if you have, no contractor in those days were valued $800 something million. The money has to go to buy stone and concrete and pay workers and whatever. So after the first batch of money, let's say 100 and something million, was exhausted, he tried to get the rest of money. They squeezed that fucking guy, man. You know, like real. He couldn't get the money. He could not get that money. You know why? Because he wasn't paying. He wasn't paying back. The engineers weren't coming. There was a whole lot of hang-ups and hang-ups and hang-ups. So if you think that your government has interest in your projects, you think again. Not that PPP that Bart has there today. No. They don't have interest in you. They don't have interest in your projects. over I think the contract was supposed to be less than a year. Over 3 years, they squeezed that guy until he couldn't do the contract anymore. He started drinking like a fish, and he died. He died a pauper. Because when he died, with his $800 and something million that could have brought him maybe $100 million profit, he died as a pauper. You know why? Because he refused to pay the people that govern you today. That is why he died as a pauper. And why I'm angry? Because that still happens. So why don't I postulate that the crime of Azruddin was very simple? He had a $300 million contract recently, US. And about the same time, shit came flying. What about if he refused to pay the people that he was supposed to pay, and somebody who knows how things happen sell information to Reuters and saying that this man is X, Y, and Z? That is how devious your government is. The same people, the same Indian people that you Indian people fall in love with so much, that you love dearly. Yes. And the man, the contractor I spoke about, was an Indian man. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with money, not race. That is your government right there for you. Your PPP government managed by Bar Jagdev and his president. Yes, so I'm postulating that Azruddin's greatest crime was refusing to pay these guys when they asked for money. That was his greatest crime. And he decided that, you know what? I can manage a better country than these guys. These guys are criminals in their class. But he can't tell you that. There's too much at stake. He stays easy, he stays silent, and he still looks out for the people that he was looking out for 20 years before him and his father. And I believe that that man is going to continue looking out for Guyanese, because he's been going there and seeing their plight. And you know what he said? Where he's going to get the money from to benefit Guyanese? From the 20% to 30% of corruption. The corrupt money he's going to take and move it around. I don't think he's greedy like your government today. And your government killed one contractor that I know of. And he was an Indian man. It wasn't about it. It was about money. It was about money. And there are many stories like that. I heard an ex-contractor told me, and I'm calling name. I was at a boardroom meeting representing another contractor in Corverton. And if these guys can remember, there were about 10 contractors there. And there was a big project that needed to be done. And this guy just started his story out of the blue. He said he shelved himself for 4 years. He went into hiding. He was so distraught. He was afraid for his life. You know why? Because it's people like your government. The guy was going to buy a barge. I don't know where he is today. And I hope I'm not saying too much that could hurt him again. He was going to buy a barge. And he got a message from one of your biggest contractors today. I don't want to call that guy's name too, because it's going to add up. But your big contractors and your government, your Bar Jagdev government, they're one. You know why? There was a contractor, a big contractor that Bharat had. And you know why he fell out of grace? You don't know that. Your contractors fell out of grace because these fuckers are asking for too much money. That is why. And these guys cannot pay the amount of money that they want, the criminals in government want. They can't pay that amount of money and still do the work to satisfaction of their integrity, their engineers' integrity, and the Guyanese people's integrity. They can't. Azruddin's crime, I think it's similar. He refused to pay. So they got Reuters, and they got the government, and they got the investigation, and they're smiling away. I remember Azruddin saying when they're paying checkers, he's playing chess. Those are things that you never knew, right? And I know you never knew. I know you never knew. It's about 20 minutes, Guyanese, and you put that shit in your pipes and smoke it. And you Indian people that like the coolie government, put that in your pipes and smoke it. That's your government. And that's how it works. And you people, you little people that don't have 25 cents, you know that all your ministers and governments are billionaires? Why don't you ask them when they come to preach? Ask them, man, must bring a photograph in your house, no? Ask them. And all the PPP people that were ministers, I want you to ask them, must bring a photograph in your house, no? See if those photographs adds up to the money, the salaries they get. You're going to learn a few things, Guyanese. And that is the top. And what happens at the top comes down to the bottom. And all you little guys in Berbice, Georgetown, and all you little contractors know the game. Because if the top a thief, the bottom got a thief too. It is simple. Why do you think when Cheddy Jagan came out with his slogan in 1992, nip corruption in the bud, you never heard anybody, except me, being slandered for corruption? Corruption is only recognized when somebody recognizes it. And when that somebody recognizes it, your PPP government destroys the person that recognizes it. Thank God I live in America today. And I am untouchable. God does what he does. And thank God for Azruddin Mohammed, who has the balls to stand up to these demons that you have in power. I congratulate that man for having the wherewithal to stand up against these demons for Guyanese people. I have great respect for him. And when Bharat is saying that Azruddin is a criminal, I am saying that Bharat is the truest criminal. Him and his boys. Guyanese, I'm saying this because I know it and I feel it. And if you don't feel it, well, so be it. I have many more things to say. I'm going to leave you. You get tired with me very quickly. So Azruddin's crime finally was refusing to pay your demons in power. That's his crime. And that is why I'm not saying that he didn't do this and he didn't do that and he didn't do that. But he did all these things that they are saying with their blessings. And they were benefiting. So they always benefit from stealing from poor people. They allow the stealing to happen. It is not happening because Azruddin is a criminal. It happens because they do not put things in place to stop corruption. When Chaji Jagan said nip corruption in the bud, they nip my bud. That's what they do. And you PPP people, you Indian people that still love them because of the color of their skin. I remember the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana and all those books. Why don't you go back and read those books and see who is evil? Indian people I'm talking to. Evil is not the black people or the PNC. The PNC is just an incompetent bunch and the same kinds just like these people. You need a new set. You need a new breed in that country. A new breed that is willing to stamp out corruption. And that is not in your PNC and your PPP. Guyanese Indians. If you want me call name, next time I'll do that. But now me gone. Bye-bye and thank you very much. And Guyanese, this is a period of time that you need to make hard decisions. Because if 30% of the trillion change dollar that your government is spending goes into their pockets, what are you getting? 100,000? 100,000? I heard about the billions they talk about that they're putting in your pockets. And you know what? Last thing. Me no attack. The next day I attack. Gone. Bye. Thank you very much, guys. Love you.